You're listening to Do That Well with your hosts, Brenda Brown and Karen Thrall, a podcast about real experiences and how to turn them into life lessons. Unscripted, honest, funny, genuine, and passionate. A series of conversations where we explore every aspect of human interaction and provoke each other to do life well.
Today we're going to be talking about a purpose-filled life, but we're going to focus on one very specific part of a purpose-filled life. And that is when no one's watching, who are you? When no one's watching, what kind of impact do you have or are you having? And one of the stories that is, it's very, very fun. It's one of my favorite stories. So if you know me well, you've heard me talk about it. It was a fall day. It was raining. So it was in the morning and the rain was coming down pretty strong. And as I was driving through the neighborhood, I saw this little girl. She couldn't have been more than 7. And she had this pink umbrella. And the wind and the rain were just beating down on her. And she was really struggling to walk across the school field to her school. And I went, I got to watch this. I have to watch this. So I pulled the car over. And I remember just sitting there quietly across the street, and my windshield wipers were going. And I just silently watched this little girl. And she struggled and she's walking. All of a sudden, the umbrella was snatched out of her hand by the wind. And I could only read her body language, but her body language was surprise. And she's running, chasing after her umbrella. And she couldn't get to her umbrella. And then when she would get close to it, it would start bouncing again. And the wind was blowing it. And the rain's coming down. And the most beautiful thing that I saw was she stopped and she tilted her head back in laughter and put her hands on the side of her body and went, and this determination. And I watched her and I went, huh. So she got all little girl determined and she got to where she ran towards the umbrella and she grabbed hold of it. Oh, I got my umbrella and she held it tight. And then she continued on to school. And in that moment, I was so inspired by her that determination, never let go of your determination. No matter what challenges or storms come your way, do not let go of your determination. Had such an impact on me. That was years ago that I still remember vividly like it was yesterday. And you think of how many times have we been just being ourselves, doing our life, not really thinking about it, and someone's watching from a distance being inspired by us. How many times have we gone to a coffee shop or a grocery store where just us being our natural self impacts somebody else? And so as we live a purpose-filled life, one of the greatest things we want to talk about, Brenda and I want to talk about today, is when no one's watching, what kind of impact are you having?
And I think that story, so I've heard this story before, and I'm still, every time I hear that story, the visual that I get, Karen, even the fact that she was in a storm and she had to persevere, and it is amazing how these little moments that we will just happen upon can really stick with us, and we'll come back to them time and time again throughout our lives.
Mm-hmm.
And that little girl has no idea.
No,
She
she'll never
doesn't
know.
know that you were
Nope.
watching her, or that you've gone on to tell her story. But
Yeah.
how amazing, what an amazing gift that she
Yeah.
was able to offer you just by
Mm-hmm.
being herself.
Yes. It really left an impression on me. So that I thought if we could start with that, and Brenda, I'd love to hear any stories you've had. And as we tell these stories, that the people listening and you and I together, that will remember what that, wow, like I really make a difference when I'm not even trying to make a difference. And that's something during this time, like that we just really call that out of each other. So that's our goal for today.
Yes, yes. And what I like about this is that it can be big moments like that, but it can also be really small moments. So, something that just happened to me last week, actually, I have a friend that has been doing these Zoom fitness classes, and I've been joining as much as I can. And it's been honestly the highlight of my week to do this Zoom fitness class and see these people. It's like a little group of us that does it every week. But I was having a bit of a rough week last week. And afterwards, I think I shared with her, hey, thanks again for doing these classes, highlight of my week. And she responded back with all these nice things to say. And she was jokingly like, your form during that deadlift was amazing. And for some reason, just hearing this phrase, like your form during the deadlift was amazing, that honestly changed my entire day. Like it put a smile on my face. I had been in a bad mood all day. I was feeling really self-conscious and kind of down on myself.
Mm,
And just hearing somebody say your form was great. Like
mm,
she doesn't know. She was just being kind of silly. She was just being herself. But she has no idea that that just changed my entire day. I was instantly in a better mood and I felt so much better about myself. Like, how silly. It was
yeah.
one sentence
Mhm.
and
She doesn't
just
know
a
the
little
impact.
thing, but she has no idea that that really changed my week around.
Mhm. That's
She might know now if she listens to this episode.
yeah, yeah. I have another one just to warm us up here. I was same similar thing. I wasn't having a great day, and I was on a sky train on a subway, and an elderly couple. So it was a man and a woman, Chinese Canadian. I was in Canada at the time, and he was in a wheelchair, and she pushed him into the subway, and had a round face, really jolly looking face, like his relaxed face was happy. And she had these little white gloves on, and she had a little red purse hanging from her wrist, and she had really puffed up hair like the 60s, and red lipstick, and eyeliner for her eyebrows, and she had like a tweed coat on. See, that's how strong the vivid was. And I wasn't in a really good place. I was feeling really low, and I was hiding, like that invisible hiding you do in public. Maybe no one can see me. So I was sitting at the back, and I was really trying to just keep to myself. And when I glanced up and watched them get on the SkyTrain, the love, I was instantly filled with so much love for them. And I was like, I love you. I didn't say that to them, but I just was so overwhelmed they were so beautiful and they were so happy. And you could tell they'd been together for a long time. And my heart went out to them. And just that moment was maybe a 30-second moment, filled me for the rest of the day. And they didn't do anything. They just got on a train, but something about them impacted me so much that it completely changed the rest of my day. And like when you think about your friend, she's just throwing out a compliment. She's affirming you and encouraging you, and she's moving on with the rest of her day. Now, now it's part of a podcast and is forever going to be on the internet for the rest of our time. And again, like this is inspiring. We don't know us just being our natural self. We just don't know the impact it's going to have on other people.
Definitely. And what I like about both the examples that you've given us, Karen, is that in both those circumstances, those people truly have no
No.
idea that they impacted,
No.
because these are just things that you witnessed.
Yes.
I mean, right? So they really have no idea. Whereas my friend, like, yes,
Yeah.
she was giving me a compliment, so she
Mm.
was probably assuming it'd make me feel good to a certain extent, but I don't think she knew how much of an
Mm.
impact it had, right?
Mhm. Yeah.
So I have a story, and it's very, very vulnerable. So, audience, here we go. But this is a story that I want to share with you all because this person they were helping me. So it was something that they were intentionally doing. I'm going to tell the story and then you'll understand. So this must have been about 6 years ago, maybe. And I was having a very hard time in my life. It was not in a great place. So I've had better times. And I had gone out with some friends, and I think actually I had something slipped into a drink that I had. And nobody knew how not on, that I needed help, but none of my friends really knew. So they just thought I was drunk, and they sent me into a taxi cab, and they said, we'll see you later. I got kicked out of the taxi cab because I was getting sick. And I was so out of it that I couldn't get to myself home. And so I literally just laid down on the sidewalk. This was in Seattle. I laid down on the sidewalk and I just started crying because I didn't know how I was going to get myself home.
Mm.
And a homeless man that was in a
Mm.
wheelchair came up to me and said, "Are you okay? Are you okay?" And I wasn't okay. I don't even actually remember much of what happened after that, but he pulled my ID out of my purse, because later when I woke up the next day, I had my ID. I was clutching it in my hand, and he had somehow gotten me into the cab, took my address off my ID, and got me home.
Mm. Mm.
And the
Wow.
reason that I'm sharing this with you all, because not only does this person have no idea what an impact he had, he just thought he was helping someone out, getting them home. I remember him saying, if you can't stand up, I have to take you to the hospital. So I remember like getting standing, and I remember
Wow.
leaning on his wheelchair.
Wow.
And so of course he knew he was helping someone, but I don't think he'll ever know how significant that was for me in my life, because this was somebody that is less fortunate than me, and they still went out of their way to help
Mm.
somebody that they saw was in need. And that to me is like the most
Mm.
beautiful thing and the most beautiful
Mm.
gift that he could have offered me.
Mm.
um but So that's my
Mm.
story of how I don't think that man
Powerful.
will know. He will
No.
never know what an impact
Mm.
that had. But I think of him almost daily, because
Mm.
it's this time where it just showed me the goodness of humanity.
Mm. Wow.
So that's my really intense, vulnerable story
Yeah,
for
it's
you all.
wonderful. It's wonderful. And see, that's the thing. And what I really like is that we're talking about other people and how they impacted us. And our call to action is that we can reciprocate, that we be those people. You know, we're sharing stories of other people that are strangers or not strangers that really, really infected our lives, infected our lives. They really did that, and they'll never know. And so we can pay that forward by just being your natural you. Question: what do you think? Like, why do you think we forget to remember? Funny, how do I say it like that? Why do we forget to remember? But why is it? Why is this something that we're not consciously being aware of every day about ourselves? What has caused us to not just naturally be this way so that we can have a natural impact on the lives of people around us?
I think for myself, I do think it has in part to do with just getting really focused on what you're doing and like forgetting to look outside of myself. I think that prevents me sometimes from, because this awareness of getting so focused on what you're doing, and then you almost forget to just relax and be yourself sometimes because you are so aware. It's counterintuitive in a way, because it's almost as if being so aware of others' eyes changes your behavior because you're trying to fit into this mold so you'll be perceived
Mm.
a certain way. But then it's that when we lose our authenticity, then I think we start to lose out on those moments where we might
Mhm.
impact people.
Yeah, and I actually was thinking when you were saying that, like even the movie Forrest Gump, he was so authentic
Yeah.
and the world changed. Like he was constantly impacting the world by just being authentic in himself.
Right.
And so if you think about the gentleman that helped you home in a city that and you were disoriented and you were confused and didn't know where you were, and he took the time to get you in a cab and take you home, and you were safe. He made sure you were safe, and he was just being himself. And then you think, wow, he would have done that. That's just who he is.
Mm-hmm.
He would do that for anybody if he saw the need was there.
Right.
And I think that's what's so inspiring is it wasn't a one-off for him. It was normal for him.
Right.
His normal was your special. And I think for us to just, when you step out the door, I'm just going to be me, and I'm going to be comfortable being me, and I'm going to be comfortable in my environment, and I'm going to welcome this world into my life. Like you just, and it's not that you're going out of your way. Like the couple on the SkyTrain, they just walked into a SkyTrain. They never even saw me because I had my invisible cloak on, so they couldn't. Yeah.
And what do you think, Karen? What do you think prevents us from?
I like what you said, preoccupied with ourselves.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I like that a lot. I like the way you said that.
And it's very easy to do, I think, in our current day and age, and
Mhm.
with all of the technology that's available to us, and it is really easy to become very preoccupied and self-focused.
Mhm. The one thing in coaching is constantly that happens in coaching is your energy goes before you, your energy goes before your words, your energy goes before your actions. So someone can read you by the way you're walking down the hallway. Someone can read you by the way you sit down in your chair. Someone can read you by the way you are clicking on the keyboard. So the energy I'm putting out before I even speak, before I even look, before I even listen is louder than what I say. And imagine if we would if we just focused on that. When I step out this door, my energy is of kindness and present and available, whatever that word is, and we just say this is who I am, this is how I love to be, this is how I'm showing up, period, no matter how rushed I am, something like that, where we just start to really call ourselves to it.
And I like what you were saying about energy, that our energy precedes us, or that is a way that people will read us. I, at one point, had a friend, this was years ago, but she was saying that somebody was throwing their vibes around. And I
Oh,
really liked that
ooh, I like that.
phrase.
Yeah,
And that's something that I use now, because
I
it
like
is
that.
sometimes people do throw their energy around, or they throw their vibes around. And so I think that is a nice reminder. As you're saying, our call to action is, can we focus on this positive impact that we have on others? But it is a nice reminder that it can our energy can have negative impacts on people as well if we aren't careful about the energy that we're putting out there. If we're throwing our vibes around, that sometimes we can also break someone's day.
Yeah.
So our call to action, as you were saying, Karen, is we really want to focus on this positive impact, and we want to focus on how do we go out, how do we be our authentic selves, and make sure that you're having that you're bringing joy into the world and
Mhm.
not
Mhm.
negativity.
Mhm. Well, this is what I love about this podcast is we're calling ourselves, hey, remember, there's greater reward when you just be your natural you. There's greater reward when you're just because you just don't know who's watching. Like I remember this woman. I was at the San Francisco store. I was visiting their store, and this is another one of those impacting. I don't know her name. That was a one only time I'll ever see her. And she walked in. She was dressed all in a cream colored like suit outfit, and she had a cane, and she was probably in her 80s, and she was with her daughter, and she sat down and she cupped her chin and put her finger by and was watching me and like tapping her finger, like thinking while she was watching me. And so I'd smile, and her daughter was trying on shoes. Kept doing that, and then she pointed at me and signaled me to come here with her finger. And so I went over there and I sat down on the floor and I said, hi. And she said, you're strong. And I went, I, and that's all she wanted to tell me. That was it.
Oh, I
And I
love that.
and I said, "I thank you so much. Thank you." And see, when those moments happen, like your friend who said that was good form, and you said you needed it. You didn't even know you needed it. And it was one of those moments where I didn't know I needed whatever she was offering. I didn't know that she was so intuitive. So she starts telling me about her daughter. Her daughter's a doctor. She has kids. Her husband and her had I think, they had a jewelry store, and he's passed. And so she was just talking about her kids. I think they came from the Ukraine. And yeah, no, she says, "You are strong and you are smart." That's what she said. "You are strong and you are smart." And then she was telling me she's from the Ukraine originally back in the day. And as they're leaving, she took my hand, she gave me a big kiss on the cheek and hugged me, and she goes, "Come for dinner tomorrow."
Oh,
"Come for dinner. Come to my home. Have dinner with me and my family." And I was like, oh, like everything in me wanted to. I was leaving, going back to Vancouver. But what is that? The freedom this woman had to speak something to a stranger because she felt compelled to. And I think about your story, and it's like encouraging words to strangers are equally as powerful as encouraging words you give to friends. They carry the same power because it's encouragement. And so, even if we did that, even if we did encouragement, start to really build people up. And we're entering a season, I believe, it's time to build people up, everybody up. Every person, so whether a stranger or a friend. And I think that maybe that's part of our message today is how do we take this call to action, we apply it to our lives immediately, because why not? It's good.
yeah. Oh, you're reminding me of at some point in time recently, there was a meme or something going around on the internet, but it was a joke about how there's always that one drunk girl at the bar that's just like everyone's best friend. And maybe it's a drunk guy, maybe it's a drunk girl, but we've all seen that happen where there's the one person that's just like, "Oh my gosh, you're amazing, I love you,"
Yeah.
and like they love they're loving everyone, and they're like, "You look
Yeah.
amazing today." But it's it was, so that's been kind of going viral. I saw something about that, but it is such a real thing, and it's totally what we're talking about here. Like, how can we be the that I know we've talked about being hype people before in the past, but like
Mhm.
it's almost like, can you be hype men, hype women for strangers? Can you just come with words of encouragement, and what does that look like? And think about the
Mhm.
times in your life where someone's offered you encouragement, like in your story and my story. Think about the times where you saw the little girl, combat the umbrella, and what an
Mhm.
impact that had on your life. And then
Mhm.
can you then offer that same gift to others? I think the
Mhm.
answer is yes. I think we can.
Like it's being modeled for us, story after story. And if you and I really had time to really reflect, I know we would find a moment every week. We would, if we just
100%.
really stopped our world and went, "Well, who impacted me this week and who impacted me last week?" And it's being modeled for us because the message, and we're recipients of it. And so it's, you don't have to be convinced because it really works.
Well, of course, this is a concept that is not necessarily new. I mean, there's
No,
so many different quotes and things out there, but I wanted to just share a few that we came across as we
okay,
wrap up here
okay,
because I liked them. So, a couple of different quotes that we found when we were researching for this topic. Unknowingly inspire simply by being you. Beautiful.
yeah,
Be strong. You never know who you're inspiring. Love it. Always wear a smile because you never know who's watching. And that was said by Gracie Gold, who is an Olympic figure skater. And then this is a Gandhi quote, and many people have probably heard the paraphrased version, which is "be the change you want to see in the world." But this was his full quote, and I do think it's really beautiful, so I'd like to share it with everyone. We but mirror the world. All the tendencies present in the outer world are to be found in the world of our body. If we could change ourselves, the tendencies in the world would also change. As a man changes his own nature, so does the attitude of the world change towards him. This is the divine mystery supreme. A wonderful thing it is and the source of our happiness. We need not wait to see what others do.
I like that.
It's
We-
so
Mhm.
powerful. And it
Mhm.
is this idea of, if we can come to the world with love and grace and empathy and encouragement and all of these other things that we've just talked about, it will spread. It will
Mhm.
continue to be paid forward, and you will see that it will have an impact on your life too. By impacting others, you will also be impacted.
You're not even trying. Remember, when you step out the door, just don't take the stuff that doesn't belong to you with you. Leave that and go. So if you're discouraged, or if you're frustrated, or if you're really annoyed, or you just got into a fight, or you're scared about your finances, or you're worried about your job, or whatever those things are, is not actually your natural you. Those are thoughts that you're having. Those are circumstances that you're living in, but they're not actually your natural you. So your natural you is, I, I, this is all that matters in this moment right now. I'm walking down the street in this moment right now is all that matters. And I think if I can see a theme, every one of these people we mentioned was very present. They were just very present. So they were able to shine a light, I guess, to have a little beam come out of them. So, yeah.
Yes. Can we channel our authentic Forrest Gump selves?
Yes. Yeah.
Well, as we wrap up, is there any other closing words that you would like to leave with the audience, Karen?
I did. Going back to what you said about being preoccupied, we didn't really give that a lot of attention. Maybe write a list. What is preoccupying you? What is what is in the forefront of your mind that is taking up all the space? And if that's in your mind, and that's what you're bringing with you, but if you could remove those thoughts and put them on a piece of paper, say, this is preoccupying my space, this is preoccupying my energy, this is preoccupying my ability to be present, I feel rushed, I feel anxious, I feel in a hurry, I feel urgent. I What are those things exactly? And then write them on a piece of paper and leave them on the piece of paper, at least for one day. Just one day. That's all I'm asking. And then let's see what happens. Have a game with yourself. If I leave this on this piece of paper and I try this thing that Brenda and Karen are talking about, what might happen? And then who knows? You don't know. So this call to being present so that we can spread this impact to strangers, the way strangers have impacted us.
Love it. And what I like about the exercise as well is there's this idea of you're physically leaving it behind, right? You're
Mm-hmm.
physically leaving it at the door because you've put it on paper. You can come back to it if you need to,
Mm-hmm.
but before you leave, it stays on the paper.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Well, that is our episode for today. We thank you all for joining us. As always, please don't forget to follow us on Instagram at Do That Well. And we'll see you next week here, Thursday, on Do That Well.
Okay. Bye.